We have on the phone Executive Director of Southern Baptist of Texas Convention, Jim Richards. Your first thoughts, sir?
Well, of course, we're calling on all of our churches to pray and on everyone to pray for these people who have been tragically involved in this situation. Our convention has chaplains that will be available for the church and the community, and we're trying to just find ways that we can help. We're praying for God's mercy on those who are wounded and for their healing and grace for those who have lost loved ones. This church is very typical of our Southern Baptist churches. Most of our churches are less than 200 in attendance, and so this is a very typical type church, and their goal and mission is to present the gospel of Jesus Christ, how that Jesus died for our sins and resurrected the third day, and transformation of life is their message. And this tragedy is just incomprehensible that someone would come in and perpetrate this type of act. It is just heartbreaking.
Mr. Richards, Eric Shawn here. Heartbreaking, offensive. It is an affront to God and to humanity. As you said, 50 people in this small church, 20 to 24 shot dead as they are praying during the services, giving time for the gunman apparently to reload. About 20 others wounded, including children, we're told. Among the dead, adults, children, a 2-year-old also grazed. What can you tell us about the church? Pastor Pomeroy is the pastor of this church. Do you know it? Have you been there? And what is your insight about the type of services there?
Well, our convention, what we call a field ministry strategist, we have a person in that area that ministers very closely to these churches and to the pastors, and he is on his way there. He actually preached in that church 3 weeks ago, very familiar with the church. And like I was saying, it's very typical of our churches in that they're presenting the gospel of Christ. They're seeking to minister to the community. They're wanting to see lives transformed. And to have such a demonic attack, it is a spiritual warfare that we are involved in, and oftentimes it takes the form of physical violence, and it's heartbreaking and horrific. It's indescribable to just think what happened there. And of course, this will not stop the gospel of Christ. It will not stop the godly people who seek to serve the Lord there. And so we're coming alongside of them in every way that we possibly can.
God bless you and thank you. You just used the words dynamic attack. I mean, this is, according to the Texas Governor Greg Abbott, saying an evil act. You know, the investigators are going to start going through the background of this shooter. They're going to go look at motivation, whether it was a terrorist attack, whether it was a domestic cause, whether it was a domestic dispute, whether it was international terrorism or jihad that we've been reporting and we're becoming all too so familiar with in this country. But talk about evil. Talk about something that would be in someone's heart, to go in the morning at 11:30 in the morning and see children in their faces. We saw this in Las Vegas. We've seen this elsewhere in this country too often. We saw it with Dylan Roof in Charleston, South Carolina, and his hatred motivated by race. Tell us a bit about evil acts and what could perpetrate someone to actually do something like this.
It's actually, you target with all of that. The motive is irrelevant. What is a fact that we all know is that it is evil. And we live in a fallen world. And rather than all of us, we, of course, have the conscience that God gives us. But all of us have the propensity toward evil. And only by the goodness of God working in our hearts can we be restrained. And only by the personal relationship with Christ can we have the power to overcome evil in our own lives. And so when it comes out like this, when this type of violence, senseless killing, the unexplained motive, it doesn't really matter, because we know that the root of it comes from the very depths of evil, and it is demonic.
It's a town of like just under 700 people, and if the numbers bear out, 24 murdered in cold blood in broad daylight, 20 more wounded. You've got roughly 50 people or more who, roughly in that church. I mean, that's like 8% of the town's population. And this is the type of thing, having seen what we experienced here in New York City this past week, that basically does not happen in small town America.
Yes, and of course, with the numbers that we're hearing, it sounds like he may have actually shot every person in that room. It would be about the same in attendance as the numbers that we're getting back.
And finally, Mr. Richards, what are you telling your congregants, what are you telling the pastors as part of the Southern Baptist Church of Texas in terms of what they can tell the faithful, they can tell their parishioners and the churchgoers?
Absolutely. We're calling on everyone to pray and ask the Lord for grace and to provide strength for the people who are going through this. And so we welcome people to lift up their prayers for these individuals who are directly impacted at the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs.
Jim Richards, thank you. We will pray and ask for God's grace. All Americans should do that this afternoon. Thank you. Our heart is with you. Our sympathy is with you. Our prayers are with you.